Maya Torres walked through the dead sand with her worn boots making soft sounds on the ground. The sun burned hot above her head, but she did not feel the heat like other people did. She was 15 years old and had lived in the wasteland all her life. Her dark hair was tied back with a piece of old rope, and her clothes were made from scraps of cloth she had found in the ruins. The desert stretched out in all directions around her. Once this place had been full of cities and green things, but that was before the Great Burning 30 years ago. Now only broken pieces of buildings stuck up from the sand like the bones of dead animals. The air shimmered with heat and poison that would kill most people in just a few hours. Maya carried a small bag on her back, filled with metal pieces and old machine parts she had found. She was always looking for things that still worked because Carl Davis needed them to keep their home running. Carl was an old man who had found Maya when she was just a baby. He lived in a hidden place under the ground where the poison could not reach them. She stopped walking and looked up at the sky. 3 black shapes moved across the blue like birds, but they were not birds. They were the ships of the Kethter, and Maya hated them with all her heart. The alien creatures had come to Earth when Maya was very young. They had burned the world and killed most of the people. Now they flew around in their ships looking for the humans who were still alive so they could kill them too. The Kethter looked like giant insects with hard shells covering their bodies. They had 4 arms and big eyes that could see in the dark. Their leader was called War Prime Zekthal, and he wanted all humans to die. Maya had never seen him, but she had heard the stories from other people. He was bigger than the other aliens and meaner too. Maya waited until the ships were gone before she started walking again. She knew the aliens could see body heat from far away, so she had to be careful. But for some reason they never seemed to notice her even when she walked right under them. Carl said it was because she was special, but Maya did not know what he meant. She walked for 2 more hours until she reached the place where she was going. It was an old town that had been destroyed in the Great Burning. Most of the buildings were just piles of broken stone now, but sometimes Maya could find good things in the ruins. She climbed over a wall and dropped down into what used to be a street. The first building she checked was empty except for some old bones on the floor. The second building had a broken machine that might have parts Carl could use. Maya put some small pieces of metal in her bag and kept looking. The third building was different. There was something silver and shiny sticking out from under some rocks. Maya moved the rocks away with her hands. Under them was a crashed flying machine, but it was not one of the alien ships. This one was made by humans. She could tell because it had words written on the side in letters she could read. The machine was broken and burned, but there might be someone inside who was still alive. She found a door on the side of the machine and pulled it open. Inside was a woman with gray hair and blood on her face. The woman was breathing, but just barely. Maya knew she had to help her fast, or the woman would die. She pulled the woman out of the machine and carried her to a safe, placed behind some rocks. The woman opened her eyes and looked at Maya. Her voice was very weak when she spoke. She said her name was Dr. Lisa Grant and that she was a scientist who studied the aliens. She had been trying to get away from a Kethter base when her flying machine was shot down. She was dying from the poison in the air, but she had something important to tell. Maya. Dr. Grant grabbed Maya's arm with her shaking hand. She said the aliens were not as strong as people thought. Their machines needed something special to work, and that something was human blood. But if humans knew the right way to fight back, they could hurt the aliens badly. The alien bodies would break down if they stayed around human blood for too long. Maya listened carefully to every word. Dr. Grant said there were other people still fighting the aliens. They called themselves the Resistance, and they had bases hidden all over the wasteland. Their leader was a man named Commander Jake Morrison, and he was always looking for ways to fight back. Maya had to find him and tell him what Dr. Grant had learned. Dr. Grant reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal box. She gave it to Maya and told her it had all the information about the aliens inside it. Maya had to keep it safe and get it to the Resistance. It might be the key to saving all the humans who were still alive. The woman closed her eyes and died a few minutes later. Maya sat with her for a while and felt sad. She had never seen someone die before, but she knew she had to be strong and do what Dr. Grant had asked her to do. She put the metal box in her bag next to the machine parts and started the long walk. Home. When Maya got back to the hidden bunker, Carl was waiting for her. He could tell something important had happened just by looking at her face. Maya told him about Dr. Grant and the crashed machine and the metal box with the secret information. Carl listened and nodded his head. He told Maya that he had heard stories about Commander Morrison and the Resistance. They were brave people who refused to give up even though the aliens were stronger and had better weapons. If Dr. Grant was right about human blood being able to hurt the aliens, then maybe there was still hope for everyone. That night, Maya lay on her sleeping mat and thought about what Dr. Grant had said. She wondered if she really was special like Carl always told her. Maybe there was a reason why the poison did not hurt her like it hurt other people. Maybe she was meant to help save the world from the aliens. She looked at the metal box sitting on the table and made a promise to herself that she would find the Resistance and give them the information no matter how dangerous it was. Carl Davis knew where to find the Resistance, but getting there would be very dangerous. He had friends who could pass messages between the different groups of people still fighting the aliens. It took 3 days, but finally word came back that Commander Jake Morrison wanted to meet Maya and see what Dr. Grant had left behind. The meeting place was an old subway tunnel 20 miles away from their bunker. Maya and Carl walked through the night to get there. They had to be very careful because the aliens sent out hunting parties after dark. The Kethler could see heat from far away, but they did not like to fly low to the ground where humans might have weapons that could shoot them down. Commander Morrison was not what Maya expected. He was younger than Carl, with short brown hair and scars on his face from fighting aliens. His eyes were hard like stones, but when he looked at Maya they got softer. With him were 5 other people who all had weapons and looked ready to fight. At any time, Maya gave him the metal box and told him everything Dr. Grant had said about human blood being able to hurt the aliens. Commander Morrison put the box into a machine that could read what was inside it. His face got very serious as he looked at the information on the small screen. He said Dr. Grant had been right. The aliens needed human blood to make their terraforming machines work. These machines were what had turned Earth into a wasteland. But the same blood that powered their machines would also poison them if they were around it too much. The problem was getting close enough to the aliens to use this weakness against them. Commander Morrison looked at Maya for a long time before he spoke again. He said he had heard stories about a girl who could walk through the most poisoned parts of the wasteland without getting sick. Other people who tried to do the same thing died in minutes. If Maya really was immune to the alien poison, then maybe she could be the key to fighting back. But before they could make any plans, the aliens struck first. War Prime Zekthal had learned that the humans were starting to work together. He decided it was time to finish killing all of them once and for all. The aliens had a new weapon they called the Final Cleansing. They flew their ships high above the clouds and released a purple gas that fell like rain on the ground below. This gas was made to kill humans faster than ever before. It would get into their blood and change their bodies from the inside. The aliens thought this would end the war in just a few days. Maya was walking back to the bunker with Carl when the purple rain started falling. Carl tried to cover them both with a piece of metal, but some of the gas touched Maya's skin anyway. She expected to feel sick right away, but nothing happened. Carl was not so lucky. He started coughing and his skin turned pale. They made it back to the bunker, but Carl was getting worse every hour. Maya tried to take care of him, but she did not know what to do. Other people in nearby hiding places were dying from the purple gas. She could hear them crying for help, but there was nothing anyone could do. Something strange started happening to Maya after she touched the purple gas. Her blood began to look different. When she cut her finger by accident, she saw that her blood was not red anymore. It had silver lines running through it that seemed to glow in the dark. She did not feel sick, but she felt different somehow. Maya could now hear sounds that were very far away. She could smell things that other people could not smell. When she put her hand on the metal walls of the bunker, she could feel vibrations from alien ships that were miles away. It was like the poison had made her stronger instead of weaker. Carl was dying, and there was nothing Maya could do to save him. Before he died, he told her that she had to find Commander Morrison again. He said Maya was becoming something new, and that might be exactly what the world needed. She had to learn how to use her new abilities to fight the aliens. Maya buried Carl in the desert and cried for a long time. He had been the only family she had ever known. But she remembered what he had told her about being strong and helping other people. She packed her few belongings and set off to find the resistance again. It was not hard to find them because Maya could now sense where people were hiding. Her new abilities let her know exactly where Commander Morrison and his fighters were staying. But when she got close to their new hiding place, she realized something was wrong. There were alien ships circling overhead, and she could hear weapons being fired. The aliens had found the resistance base and were attacking it. Maya saw that the humans were trapped inside an old factory building while Kether warriors surrounded them on the ground. The aliens looked like giant bugs walking on their back legs with weapons in their four hands. Their hard shells were black and shiny like oil. Maya knew she had to help, but she did not have any weapons. All she had was her new abilities and the strange silver blood flowing in her body. She decided to get closer to see if there was anything she could do. She crawled through the ruins of other buildings until she was right next to where the fighting was happening. One of the alien warriors was bigger than the others. Maya could tell he was the leader by the way the other aliens followed his commands. His name was Velkar, and he was one of the scientist aliens who studied humans. He had been looking for the girl who could survive in the poisoned wasteland, and now he thought he had found her. Velkar pointed one of his four arms at the building where the humans were hiding. He spoke to the other aliens in their clicking language. Maya could not understand the words, but somehow she knew what he was saying. He wanted to capture her alive so they could study her body and learn why the poison had not killed her. Maya realized that the aliens had attacked the resistance base because they were looking for her. Commander Morrison and his people were in danger because of her. She had to do something to help them, even if it meant the aliens would catch her. She stood up from her hiding place and walked toward the alien warriors. The moment she stepped into the open, all the aliens turned to look at her. Velkar made an excited clicking sound and pointed at her silver eyes that were now glowing in the dark. He told the other aliens to be careful not to hurt her because War Prime Zekthal wanted her brought back alive. But when the aliens got close to Maya, something unexpected happened. The silver lines in her blood started glowing brighter, and she could feel power flowing through her body like electricity. She reached out and touched the nearest alien warrior. The moment her skin made contact with his hard shell, the alien started screaming and fell to the ground. The alien warrior that Maya had touched was changing before everyone's eyes. His black shell was turning brown and soft like human skin. The hard armor that protected his body was melting away, and underneath was something that looked almost human. The other aliens stepped back in fear and started making loud clicking sounds. Velkar shouted commands at his warriors, but they were too scared to get close to Maya. He raised his weapon and pointed it at her, but before he could fire, Commander Morrison and his fighters burst out of the building. The humans had seen what happened to the alien warrior, and they knew this was their chance to fight back. The battle was quick and brutal. The aliens were strong and had better weapons, but they were afraid of Maya now. Every time one of them got close to her, the same thing happened. Her silver blood would glow brighter, and the alien would start changing back into something more human. Soon all the alien warriors were either dead or running away. Velkar was the last one left. He looked at Maya with his big black eyes, and she could see fear there for the first time. He spoke to her in broken human words and said that War Prime Zekthal would never stop hunting her. The alien leader knew that Maya was dangerous to their entire race. He would send more warriors, and they would not stop until she was dead. Commander. Morrison walked over to Maya and put his hand on her shoulder. He had seen what her touch could do to the aliens, and he knew that everything had changed. Maya was not just immune to their poison anymore. She had become a weapon that could destroy them. But first they needed to understand what was happening. To her and why, they left the ruined factory and traveled to a new hiding place deep underground. This was where the Resistance kept their best scientists and doctors. Maya met Dr. Helen Brooks, who had been studying alien technology for years. Dr. Brooks wanted to take samples of Maya's blood to see what the purple poison had done to her body under a microscope. Maya's blood looked like nothing Dr. Brooks had ever seen before. The silver lines were actually tiny machines smaller than anything humans had ever made. These machines seemed to be able to change other living things just by touching them. Dr. Brooks said it was like Maya's blood had become a weapon designed specifically to fight aliens, but Maya was changing in other ways too. She could now sense alien technology from very far away. When she closed her eyes, she could see their ships moving across the sky like bright dots. She could tell how many aliens were in each ship and what kind of weapons they carried. It was like having a map of all the enemy forces in her head, Commander. Morrison realized they needed to move Maya to an even safer place. The aliens would never stop looking for her, and their current hiding spot was too close to the surface. He knew of an old military base deep in the mountains where they could keep her protected, while they figured out what to do next. The journey to the mountain base took 5 days. They traveled only at night and hid during the day when the alien ships were most active. Maya rode in an old truck with Amy Clark, who was an engineer before the war. Amy had been building weapons from broken alien technology, and she was very interested in how Maya's abilities worked. On the 3rd night of their journey, they met another group of survivors. These people were led by a man named Steve Parker, who had been gathering tribes from all over the wasteland. Steve had heard rumors about the girl with silver blood who could kill aliens just by touching them. He wanted to see if the stories were true. Steve brought with him 30 fighters who all looked hungry and tired. They had been running from alien hunting parties for weeks, and many of their friends had died from the purple poison. When they saw Maya, their faces showed both hope and fear. They did not know if she was their salvation or just another danger in a world full of dangers. Maya did not like the way some of Steve's people looked at her. She could sense their thoughts somehow, and she knew that some of them wanted to use her as a weapon. Others were afraid that her presence would bring more aliens down on all of them. She stayed close to Commander Morrison and Amy Clark, who made her feel safer. They reached the mountain base just as the sun was coming up. The base was built inside a huge cave system that went deep into the rock. There were tunnels and rooms that had been carved out by machines many years ago. It was the perfect place to hide from alien sensors because the rock blocked most of their scanning equipment, but the base was not empty. Living there was an old man named Professor Gary White, who had been one of the scientists working on secret projects before the war. When he saw Maya, he got very excited and started asking her lots of questions about how she felt and what she could remember from when she was younger. Professor White took Maya to his laboratory, which was filled with computers and machines that Maya had never seen before. He told her that he had been waiting for someone like her for a very long time. He had known that the aliens would come to Earth someday, and he had been working on ways to fight them. The professor showed Maya files on his computer that made her understand something terrible. She was not a natural human who had been changed by the alien poison. She was something that had been created on purpose many years before she was born. Her real father had been a scientist named Dr. Richard Torres, who had been working on a secret project to create super soldiers. Dr. Richard Torres had somehow gotten samples of alien DNA from crashed ships that the government had been hiding. He had used this alien material to change human genes and create children who would be able to fight back if the aliens ever invaded Earth. Maya was one of these children, but she was the only one who had survived. The professor showed Maya pictures of her real father and told her about the experiments he had done. Maya felt angry and confused. She had always thought she was just a normal girl who happened to be lucky. Now she learned that her entire life had been planned by people she had never met. She was a weapon that had been designed to kill aliens, but Professor White told her something even more important. Maya's blood was not just able to change individual aliens. If she could get close enough to their main terraforming machines, She might be able to reverse what they had done to the entire planet. Her blood could turn the poisoned wasteland back into the green world it used to be. Commander Morrison and Steve Parker started making plans for an attack on the biggest alien base on the continent. This base had the master terraforming machine that controlled all the others. If Maya could get inside and touch that machine with her blood, she might be able to save everyone and everything, but the alien base was protected by thousands of warriors. And surrounded by the most dangerous poisons on Earth, it would be suicide for normal humans to even get close. They would need an army of fighters and weapons that could punch through alien defenses. Even then, most of them would probably die in the attack. Maya listened to their plans and felt scared for the first time since her abilities had awakened. She knew that many good people would die trying to get her to that machine. But she also knew that if she did not try, then all humans would die anyway. The aliens would never stop hunting her, and they would never stop poisoning the world. That night, Maya stood outside the cave entrance and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was the alien homeworld where War Prime Zekthal was planning his final attack on Earth. She could feel his hatred like a cold wind blowing through space. He knew she existed now, and he would not rest until she was destroyed. War Prime Zekthal stood in his command ship high above Earth and felt something he had never felt before. Fear was creeping through his body like poison as he watched the reports from his warriors on the surface. One human female was destroying his soldiers with just a touch, and somehow reversing the terraforming process his people had spent decades perfecting. The alien leader was massive even compared to other Kethter. His black shell was covered with metal plates and wires that connected to the ship's computers. He had lived for over 300 Earth years and had conquered 12 worlds for his people. But he had never seen anything like what this human girl could do. Valkar stood before his leader and tried to explain what had happened at the factory. He showed video recordings of Maya touching the alien warriors and watching them change back into something that looked almost human. The scientist could not explain how this was possible, but he knew. They had to capture her before she could do more damage. War Prime Zekthal made a decision that shocked all his commanders. He would bring every ship in the Kethter fleet to Earth and use them all to hunt down this one human female. He did not care if it meant leaving their other conquered worlds undefended. Maya Torres was now the biggest threat to their entire civilization. Down in the mountain base, Maya was learning more about her abilities every day. Professor White had built special machines to test what her blood could do. When he put alien technology in containers with her blood, the metal would start changing color and breaking apart. The organic parts would turn back into something that looked like earth plants and animals. Dr. Helen Brooks discovered something even more amazing. Maya's blood seemed to remember what things were supposed to look like before the aliens changed them. When she tested it on samples of poisoned soil, the dirt became clean and healthy again. Seeds that had been dead for years started growing into green plants. Amy Clark was working day and night to build new weapons that could use Maya's abilities. She created special bullets that had tiny amounts of Maya's blood mixed into the metal. When these bullets hit alien warriors, they would start the same changing process that happened when Maya touched them directly. It meant the human fighters could hurt aliens without getting close enough to be killed, but Maya was changing too. Her silver blood was glowing brighter every day, and she was starting to look different. Her eyes had turned completely silver, and her skin had a strange light under it. She could now hear the thoughts of other humans when she was close to them. Most of the time she tried not to listen, but sometimes the thoughts were too loud to ignore. Commander Morrison was worried about Maya, but he also knew she was their only hope. Word had spread through all the human settlements about the girl who could kill aliens and bring dead land back to life. People were calling her the Silver Blood, and some were starting to treat her like she was more than human. Steve Parker had been gathering fighters from all over the wasteland. His army now had over 500 people with weapons and vehicles, ready to attack the alien base. But he knew this would not be enough. The aliens had thousands of warriors and weapons that could destroy entire cities. They needed something more than just brave fighters. The something more came from an unexpected place, other alien ships that had been sent to different parts of the galaxy started having problems. The Kethter had been using human blood in their terraforming machines on all their conquered worlds. But now something was going wrong with the machines and they were breaking down. Maya could sense what was happening even though it was very far away. Her blood was somehow connected to all the other human blood the aliens had taken. When her abilities got stronger, it affected the alien machines everywhere. Entire planets that had been turned into wastelands were starting to heal themselves. This made War Prime Zekthul even more desperate. He realized that Maya was not just a threat to his forces on Earth. She could destroy everything his people had built across the entire galaxy. He had to kill her before she got any stronger, or his entire civilization would collapse. The alien leader decided to try something that had never been done before. Instead of sending warriors to hunt Maya, he would bring her to him. He ordered his ships to start bombing human settlements all over the world. Every day more people would die until Maya surrendered herself to save the others. Maya felt every death like a knife in her heart. Her connection to other humans had grown so strong that she could sense when they died even if they were on the other side of the planet. She knew that War Prime Zekthul was trying to force her to give up, but she also knew that millions of people would die if she did nothing. Commander Morrison tried to convince Maya to wait until they were better prepared, but she could not watch more innocent people die. She told him that she was going to the alien base with or without his help. If she was really the weapon that her father had created, then it was time to use that weapon to save everyone. Professor White pulled Maya aside and showed her something he had been working on in secret. He had built a special suit that could amplify her abilities and protect her from the strongest alien weapons. The suit was made from materials that would conduct her silver blood through the entire outfit. When she wore it, her power would spread to everything she touched. Amy Clark had finished building enough of the special blood bullets for the entire army. She also created bombs that contained Maya's blood mixed with explosive materials. These weapons would spread the changing effect over a wide area and turn multiple aliens back to their original form at the same time. The night before the attack, Maya could not sleep. She walked through the cave tunnels and thought about all the people who had helped her and all the people who were going to die in the battle. Carl Davis had always told her that she was special, but she had never imagined it would mean carrying the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. She found Commander Morrison sitting by himself looking at maps of the alien base. He had been planning the attack for weeks, but they both knew it was probably suicide. The base was surrounded by force fields and energy weapons that could kill humans before they even got close. Even with Maya's abilities, most of the fighters would not survive. Maya sat down next to him, and for the first time since her abilities had awakened, she felt like a normal 15-year-old girl who was scared and alone. Commander Morrison put his arm around her shoulders and told her that no matter what happened tomorrow, she had already saved more lives than anyone else in human history. The alien base was built in what used to be the city of Denver. The Kethter had torn down all the human buildings and replaced them with their own structures that looked like giant insect hives made of black metal. At the center was the master terraforming machine that looked like a huge tower reaching up into the clouds. As dawn broke over the wasteland, Maya put on Professor White's special suit and checked her weapons one last time. Amy Clark had given her a sword that was coated with her own blood so that every cut would change aliens back to their original form. She also carried grenades filled with blood bombs that would spread her power over large areas. Commander Morrison gathered all the fighters together and gave them their final orders. They would attack the base from 3 different directions to split up the alien defenses. Maya and a small team would go straight for the terraforming tower while the others kept the alien warriors busy. War Prime Zekthul was waiting for them. His sensors had detected the human army approaching, and he had prepared every weapon and warrior under his command. He stood at the top of his tower and watched the tiny figures moving across the wasteland toward his base. Soon the troublesome human female would be dead and his people could finish their conquest of Earth. But as Maya got closer to the base, something unexpected started happening. The terraforming machines began to vibrate and spark with silver light. Her mere presence was affecting them even from a distance. War Prime Zekthul realized that she was much more powerful than his scouts had reported. This was not going to be the easy victory he had expected. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Mayao climbed down from the tower to find that most of the Kethter warriors had changed back into confused humans who did not understand what had happened to them. Commander Morrison and his fighters were helping these new humans and trying to explain that they were safe now. Steve Parker had lost many of his people in the fighting, but he was amazed by what Maya had accomplished. The alien base was transforming into something beautiful as plants grew up through the metal floors and clean water began flowing from springs that had been buried for decades. The air smelled fresh for the first time in 30 years. Amy Clark found Maya sitting by herself near the transformed tower. The engineer could see that Maya was exhausted from using so much of her power at once. Her silver blood was still glowing, but not as brightly as before. Amy sat down next to her and told her that she had saved not just Earth, but probably millions of other worlds across the galaxy. Professor White arrived with his equipment to study what had happened to the terraforming machine. He was excited to discover that the machine had not been destroyed, but changed into something that could heal damaged planets instead of poisoning them. Maya's blood had reprogrammed the alien technology to work the way nature intended. Dr. Helen Brooks was busy helping the transformed Kethter adjust to being human again. Many of them had memories from both their original human lives and their time as aliens. They remembered things that had happened thousands of years in the future and could tell stories about other worlds and civilizations that humans had never imagined. Maya learned that her transformation of the terraforming network had effects that reached far beyond Earth. On distant planets where the Kethter had other bases, the same changes were happening. Poisoned worlds were coming back to life, and alien warriors were remembering their humanity. The entire Kethter Empire was collapsing as their people rediscovered who they really were. Some of the transformed aliens chose to help rebuild the world they had damaged. They had knowledge of advanced technology that could make life better for everyone. Others wanted to find ways to return to their own time in the future to warn their people about the mistakes they had made. Marcus Webb, who had once been War Prime Zekthul, became one of Maya's closest advisors. His memories from the future helped her understand how to use the transformed terraforming machines to heal the planet faster. He also told her about the real aliens who would threaten Earth someday and how humanity needed to prepare for that. Maya discovered that her abilities were permanent and possibly growing stronger. She could now sense the health of every living thing on Earth and guide the healing process wherever it was needed most. Deserts bloomed into forests in days instead of years. Poisoned oceans became clean and full of fish again, 5 years after the Great Battle. Maya stood in a city that had been built where the alien base used to be. The buildings were made from living wood that grew into the shapes people needed. Clean rivers flowed through streets that were lined with fruit trees. Children who had never seen green grass were playing in parks that stretched as far as the eye could see. Commander Morrison had become the leader of the new Earth government that included both original humans and the transformed Kethter. Amy Clark was in charge of developing new technology that combined human creativity with alien knowledge. Professor White ran schools where children learned about both Earth's history and the wonders of the universe. Dr. Helen Brooks had established medical centers that used Maya's blood to heal people who had been damaged by years of living in the poisoned wasteland. Steve Parker led exploration teams that were mapping the restored world and finding places where people could build new communities. Maya herself had changed in ways that went beyond her silver blood and glowing eyes. She was no longer just a 15-year-old girl trying to survive in the desert. She had become something new that was part human and part force of nature. She could feel every tree that grew and every river that flowed and every child that was born healthy and strong. But Maya had not forgotten the friends she had lost along the way. She often visited the place where Carl Davis was buried and told him about all the wonderful things that were happening in the world. She knew that he would be proud of the woman she had become and the choice she had made to save everyone instead of just herself. The desert where Maya had grown up was now a green valley full of farms and small towns. People came from all over the world to see the place where the transformation had begun. They called it Silver Valley in honor of the girl whose blood had saved the planet. Maya placed her hand on the trunk of a mighty oak tree that had grown from a seed she had planted on the day the battle ended. The tree was already 50 feet tall, even though it was only 5 years old. Her touch made it grow even faster, and soon it would be tall enough for its branches to touch the clouds. She looked up at the stars and thought about all the other worlds out there that might need healing someday. Maya knew that her work on Earth was just the beginning. The universe was full of damaged places and broken people who needed someone to show them that it was possible to choose healing over destruction. Maya Torres had been born as a weapon designed to kill aliens, but she had chosen to become something much more important. She had become a healer who could bring life back to dead worlds and hope back to people who had forgotten how to dream. The desert orphan who had been poisoned by her enemies had used that poison to transform not just herself, but an entire planet and everyone on it. Began at sunrise when Amy Clark fired the first shot from her position on a hill overlooking the alien base. Her bullet was coated with Maya's blood, and when it hit an alien guard tower, the entire structure began to change. The black metal turned brown and soft, and the tower collapsed as it transformed back into organic material. Commander Morrison led the main attack force against the eastern wall, while Steve Parker took his fighters around to the north side of the base. Maya ran straight toward the center with only 6 fighters protecting her. She could feel the terraforming machine pulling at her blood like a magnet. The closer she got, the brighter the silver lines under her skin began to glow. Alien warriors came at them from all directions. These were not the normal soldiers Maya had faced before. War Prime Zekthal had brought his elite fighters to Earth, and they were bigger and stronger than any Kethter she had ever seen. Their shells were thicker, and they carried weapons that could melt human flesh in seconds, but Maya's abilities had grown beyond what even she understood. When she swung her sword, the blade left trails of silver light in the air. Every alien she cut began to change immediately. Their hard shells became soft human skin, and their weapons fell apart in their hands. Some of them looked confused as memories of their original human lives started coming back. The 6 fighters with Maya were using Amy Clark's special bullets, and they worked better than anyone had hoped. Each shot that hit an alien started the transformation process. Soon there were dozens of changing Kethter stumbling around the battlefield as their bodies remembered what they used to be before centuries of artificial evolution had turned them into insects. Maya reached the base of the great terraforming tower and looked up at its massive height. The tower was alive with energy, and she could see alien technology pulsing through its walls like blood through veins. At the top she could sense War Prime Zekthal waiting for her. His hatred was so strong she could taste it in the air. The tower had no stairs or elevators that humans could use, but Maya found that her silver blood allowed her to do things she had never tried before. When she pressed her hands against the wall, the metal began to change and create handholds that she could climb. The tower was helping her reach the top, because it wanted to be free from the alien influence that controlled it. As Maya climbed higher, the sounds of battle below grew distant. She could sense that many of her friends were dying, but she could not stop to help them. The only way to save everyone was to reach the terraforming machine and use her blood to reverse what it had done to the entire planet. War Prime Zekthal was waiting for her in a chamber at the very top of the tower. He was even bigger than Maya had imagined, and his body was more machine than living creature. Cables connected his brain to the terraforming computers, and his arms had been replaced with weapons that could destroy buildings. When he saw Maya, his eyes glowed red with fury. He spoke to her in perfect human language because his computers had analyzed thousands of human voices. He told Maya that she was an abomination that should never have existed. Her father had created her by mixing pure Kethter DNA with inferior human genes. She was neither fully human nor fully Kethter, and that made her dangerous to both species. Maya listened to his words and felt a shock of understanding. The Kethter were not aliens from another world. They were humans from Earth's future who had traveled back through time. They had changed themselves with technology until they looked like insects, but underneath their shells they were still human. The terraforming process was their way of trying to recreate the world they remembered from their own time. War Prime Zekthal saw the recognition in Maya's silver eyes and laughed with a sound like breaking glass. He told her that his people had been forced